For today's double indie game review, we turn to two indie games with some incredible visuals and aesthetics. One about the struggles of climbing a mountain with Jusant, and one about the struggles of dating and horniness with Thirsty Suitors. Jusant is a kind of story-driven, action or adventure climbing game. In a world where the water one day receded and then never came back, life has been decimated. With everything now a desert, we play as this mysterious boy and his adorable blue little critter friend who lives in like a backpack on his back, who must climb a former settlement to reach the top and try to bring water back to the world. His only aid will be his little friend and his kind of like automatic rope grapple device that's on his side. The game itself is built entirely on the climbing mechanic. If you've played any kind of indie game about mountain climbing and stuff like that, the controls should be familiar to you. Left trigger for your left hand, right trigger for your right. And you will climb, jump, and set up kind of grapple or rope points in order to secure yourself. This is a game that is incredibly low stakes, despite the fact that we're in kind of a post-apocalyptic world. You can never fall off the mountain. You will always have kind of your rope attached to a hook or hook point, so you never have to worry about dying like that. Now that also means that the actual mechanics for moving around are kept relatively simple. You're able to swing if you attach a rope point to the world. You can jump in directions, and you have a grip meter. The grip meter only recharges at kind of like quote-unquote checkpoints as you're climbing or when you're back on solid ground. The game itself is split into different chapters, with each chapter kind of giving a different mechanic or twist or something like that, but arguably the second chapter feels the longest, as it doesn't really like give you anything new. It's just kind of more building off of the first. But I love the visual design in this game, despite the fact that you're literally just climbing up a singular mountain over the entire length of it. You go to some very different areas and locales with some beautiful backgrounds in places. So Jusant itself, this is not a game for someone who's looking for a hardcore mountain climbing or any kind of like climbing challenge based game. If you're on the fence about that or looking for something along those lines, you should check out Peaks of Yore. But Jusant is a really solid kind of weekend game. It is not overly long. There are hidden collectibles for you to find, but nothing along the lines of alternate routes, bonus challenges, stuff along those lines. So I enjoy this one. It's a really solid game. And again, it has a beautiful aesthetic to it that kind of kept me climbing, even when I started to get a little tired, not so much in the hands on this one. And now we turn to something very different with Thirsty Suitors. This is kind of like if Scott Pilgrim vs. the World combined with Bollywood. We play as Jala, who after leaving her hometown to be with her new girlfriend, she left a path of destruction and bitter exes in her wake. After a very horrible breakup, she returns to the town to find that there is a skateboarding cult trying to mess with things. All of her exes are out to take revenge, and her sister is getting married. She must navigate both her love life, the life of the town, and maybe, just maybe, get approval from her mother after all these years. So this is a game that is very much built on a very specific vibe, especially with its writing and tone, and you will know whether you are in or out probably before the end of the first section, where you must pick your persona. That will affect how you respond to characters and how your character gets built or your stats over the course of playing. The actual gameplay itself is split between a lot of QTE-driven minigames, skateboarding, and the RPG or turn-based combat. QTEs are certainly all over the place and are helped by some very beautiful animations. This game has perhaps one of the most awesome petting the dog animations you will ever see, and the most extreme hand-washing animations you will also see as well. The skateboarding itself is kind of built around Jet Set Radio rules, not so much Tony Hawk. You'll be able to perform multiple tricks. You have kind of a trick modifier button. As an interesting twist, you can't seem to speed up on your board. I didn't figure out, or I didn't see a way to do that. And instead of you ending a combo by just like landing on the ground, you must kind of end your combo in style by using kind of these like end combo points scattered throughout the area. The skateboarding itself is okay. There are challenges you can complete for bonus resources and items in the World Skate Park. Now, with that said, the main kind of push of the game is going to be the combat. And combat feels like a mix of like Super Mario RPG with something that we see from a lot of like later or more modern RPGs in terms of you trying to exploit the weakness of your enemy in order to then be able to do more damage and kind of make it easier to fight them. Jala can perform different taunts that are based on kind of different emotional states. If you use the correct one on an enemy, they will become affected by that, they'll become weakened for 3 turns, and they'll take more damage from that corresponding type's kind of special attack. So the goal is figure out the enemy's weakness, use the taunt, and then maximize damage. Here's kind of the twist. You cannot do the same taunt twice in a battle. So that means that you are kind of punished for battles taking too long. And some enemies may only have one kind of like specific taunt weakness for that fight. As an interesting point, the combat also relies heavily on QTEs, and you do have the option to turn on kind of autocomplete in the game's accessibility feature. Everything about the game's like aesthetic and kind of vibe are very well done. I love the fact that one of your ultimate skills is to basically summon your mother to beat up the bad guys, but she'll only allow you 1 free use per fight. With that said, the combat does represent my biggest issue with the game, is that it does feel needlessly grindy. I was going through the story, not skipping out the major story beats, and suddenly I found that I was 5 levels below like the common enemies for that chapter. And going back to the whole taunt kind of enemy or taunt specific attack design, it means that if you aren't doing a lot of damage, of course if you're under level, you are going to have these fights feel very much prolonged. And if you do not nail the QTEs, they can certainly punish you. During one fight, I missed the QTE for the enemy and they did about 3/4 of my full health bar in a single hit. And it started to feel very like the combat was dragging on. You can get into random encounters in the kind of town's like city square, the town square, and it kind of seemed like the game was really trying to force that to do a lot of grinding. I would say you should be within 2 to 3 levels of whatever you're fighting to have a fair shot. At 4 to 5, it becomes very painful. And it's a shame that the game becomes a little bit grindy like that, because I was really getting into the story. All the visual designs, and especially when you get to the battles with your exes, really pop. It almost feels like a Persona 5 battle, when things really go in crazy in terms of the visuals. So this is a game that, again, if you're in it for the story and don't mind the combat getting a little bit grindy at spots, I would certainly recommend it. And like I said, you will know very quickly if this game's story and character designs are for you. With that said, I would like to thank Jusant, or the developers of Jusant, for giving me a press key. Thirsty Suitors was played with a retail key. If you'd like me to go your game for a future video and review, please reach out. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.